Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today the Hungry Gamer is back with another mini preview, and today we're talking about Odalin, or Odalin, or however you say it, Dungeons of Doom. And this is from Dragori Games. Now, this is a massive box dungeon crawl game that is somewhat reminiscent of the Diablo series of video games. So if you've looked at some of the art and you're kind of getting that vibe, you are correct. That is very much the inspiration behind this game, at least according to one of the designers as he told it to me. Now, this is a game in which you are battling evil, very much Diablo style. And there's lots of loot that's going to be coming in, lots of different gear you're going to be getting, a little bit of a skill tree as you're kind of leveling up, getting new abilities, and all of that stuff. However, the twist that comes with this game is each of the heroes is fused with a demon of some sort, and kind of a big deal demon. And what you're going to be seeing up there in the corner is just a little bit of imagery of kind of what I'm talking about. One, you'll see that you are going to have at least 4 different characters to choose from. I say 4 different characters to choose from because I am familiar with Tanaris Adventures, which was their previous title, and just how many characters they've introduced to that as stretch goals and all those things, so I fully suspect there will be more, but at least 4 different characters, and along with that there are 4 different demons that each one can be kind of combined with. And so at the beginning of the game, you'll pick one hero and one demon. And each of those comes with a set of 10 different base cards. There's more cards that you kind of level up into and grow into and all that. But 10 different base cards, which you then have to combine into a sleeve, giving you a top action and a bottom action. You have 5 top actions that are demon-specific actions, are kind of red, and that's going to raise your corruption stat, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. And at the bottom you have the instant action, and 5 of them will have the blue or the order action on the bottom, and then of course the other 5 are reversed. And these instant actions are ones that you're going to be able to play on any other player's turn, and they have a cost and so on, and the top actions will be your main action you'll take on your turn. Now, when we talk about how that works, as you're kind of playing through the game, there will be a variety of enemies, and there'll be a variety of enemies that you'll be facing, and depending on kind of how the board is laid out, you'll be choosing what card, what action you want to do. And what you're seeing up there, you'll see I found myself flanking with the Guardian character, another enemy, and I had a backstab card that will let me a lot of damage to the flanked enemy, and then some damage to the other enemy. So I chose to do that, and then looking at my weapons, that determines the dice that I get in my pool, and you chuck dice, you compare it to the defense of the enemy, and they're going to take damage, so on and so on and so on. At the top of the screen there, you see there's the Order Chaos board. And as you defeat enemies, and various other things will do it too, but as you defeat enemies, they will, part of their reward will be order or chaos, and each enemy is either an order or chaos enemy. So the first enemy that I beat there sends me up by 1 on the order track, closer to intense order. The next one sends me back down by 3 or 4 on the chaos track. And it's very important, you kind of want to keep that balance, because if you get really high on one or really low on the other, there starts to be repercussions in game that make things harder and harder to deal with. And there are ways that you can kind of mitigate that, throw away cards and take damage to stop that from happening. And this corruption and souls that I mentioned is particularly important because that's kind of where this game stands out and becomes a little bit different, because you have this power of a demon inside you and you're constantly at war with it, trying to keep it from taking over. And so when you get your corruption souls to 5 both at the same time, or maybe one's higher, you can spend 5 of each and then transform for a turn into the demon. Then you have full control over it, and then you can go attack the enemies. You have additional power, additional bonus, and you're bigger, which might give you a little more reach, and so on and so on. However, if you don't manage this and you get to 10 corruption at the top, then that's going to automatically transform you and will force you to attack your teammates. And so it's just kind of a balance that you're playing with there. And at the thing of the top, I accidentally spent my second resource when I automatically transformed, but you should get the idea. Now, enemies all are going to have their own little deck. They'll have their own kind of initiative card when it comes out, and then you flip over one of their AI, and they will do something to attack you, and you'll wind up defending based on your defense, which is again based off of the items that you have. You get certain dice and you're looking for little shield bonuses, which will potentially help you avoid getting hit, getting hurt, whatever it may be. And exactly what the enemy does is going to change depending on the board state, the situation, and what I have up there. Since I was wielding a melee weapon, when I got hit, I got pushed back and I would have been knocked down, so on and so on. And you're going to play through like any other dungeon crawl, kind of battling and fighting and doing all of those things until you beat all of the big bosses and then go into more big bosses and so on and so on. There's also a camp phase kind of in between, which I don't know much about. I don't have a lot of information about it, but I know it is something that is there and is coming, which will be kind of some upgrading and things like that. But I can't get too deep into it because I just don't know enough about it to speak intelligently to it. So, what do I like about this game? First, I really like, I'm going to call it card crafting. It's kind of sort of, but I like this kind of card combination that you're doing as you play. Because what it does is, even with just the basic 4 characters and 4 demons, it gives you a lot of variety, because each of those 4 characters does play very, very differently just based on the cards that it has. And then each of the demons does as well. And then, of course, you have that ability to transform. I really like the way that kind of transform happens. It can be very, very powerful. Those demon abilities, one, just kind of the ones that you always have are good, but when you're transformed, that other ability is just amazing, always in some way, shape, or form. And again, as I said, that extra reach that you can get can be just amazing, because suddenly instead of just being 1 square, you are actually being 4 squares, which is very, very cool. I also really like this idea that if you don't manage yourself, it can be an uncontrolled transformation, and suddenly you don't have control over this. You have transformed, and you are stuck, and you're going to attack your own allies because you didn't manage yourself. And that to me is very, very thematic in this game, where you're kind of trying to harness evil to do good. And I think that's very clever, and it works really, really well. I love that there's always these available instant abilities. You always have these cards in your hand. I guess it's just possible maybe to run out if you use too many instants, but you always have these cards available in your hand, so you constantly have these little instant abilities that you can throw out and you can use, which is important, one, because it's fun to do, but also it keeps you more engaged on other people's turns. And I think it does it in a fairly light, simple, but effective and enjoyable way. So I really do enjoy the constant ability to use instants based on the cards that you have in your hand. I've already mentioned kind of the soul and corruption. I also appreciate that there are other uses for it. As you have different weapons, they might give you bonuses to one, or let you spend one to kind of get the other, or spend one to get a different type of bonus on attack, or create a status effect or something like that. I think it's just a very clever little double resource that you have that you're constantly managing along with your health at any given time. I just really think it works well, and so that's why I keep kind of bringing it up, that I think it's particularly cool. I'm also going to say that even though the version that I have, as you can see, doesn't have any minis, just has little cardboard tokens, which, by the way, I know I'm weird. I really like having cardboard tokens for things. I think it's just so clean and simple, takes up less space, I don't have to paint it, it already has the cool art, whatever. I know that's not the point, that's just for this. But since I do have a whole bunch of Tanaris Adventures, I do know that the quality of miniatures that they've been using in Tanaris Adventures is fantastic. I think the art is very cool, very clever for this game as well, so I'm very confident the minis are going to look great. So I guess technically I don't know, I'm just speaking from experience of their other games. So, what are my quibbles with this game? Well, the first thing is I do still have a lot of questions, and that's because this is a game that is in development. I mean, clearly it is still in development. Same thing with kind of that camp phase I don't have any of kind of the late game content. I don't have those things. I just have kind of the demo plus a little bit more that you might get if you played this game at a convention or something like that. So that there are lots of questions that I still have. Though I was pretty pleased with the gameplay and all the depth that you have in Tanaris Adventures, so that does lead me to be hopeful here, but again, I just don't fully know, and so really take some time and look at that campaign page, look at what they're putting out, look at what's there to determine if you think this is a good game for you. And as I mentioned, because I don't have any of this kind of late game stuff, I don't know how this is going to scale. I don't know if you're going to feel like you're getting more powerful, or if you just kind of feel like you get a little more powerful, you're kind of already there. I don't know how it's going to go, what's going to happen. I don't know how the scaling is with the bad guys. I don't really know how long kind of the late game stuff's going to take. So kind of all of that as you get later and later in the game, which is so important in a good dungeon crawl, I don't really know how that's going to play out. Again, just something to kind of pay attention to and maybe ask those questions when you can. And the last thing I'm going to say is, this is a big box. And there was 80% of this box was air. with what I got because it just isn't everything. So they were not smart enough to kind of send what the size of this box is going to be. This is a big box. And I'll point out that I have, for Tanaris Adventures, I have one, two, three big boxes for Tanaris Adventures. And it pretty much comes to a bit more than two of these kind of stacked up. So this is going to take a lot of space on your shelf. And I know that there is a lot more Tanaris Adventures as well. So this runs to form for Dragori games. This is going to take up a lot of space on your shelf unless you can control yourself and maybe just get the core box. So just understand, you're going to be filling up many shelves with this game if you are wanting to kind of go in on it, which means that you're going to have to be confident that you're really going to want to play this game a lot over and over and over again because it's also going to be a pretty penny. But there you have it, folks. That is Odalin Dungeons of Doom. I think this is a very good next step for Dragori games. I'm glad they're not continuing Tanaris Adventures. My goodness, I already have so much of it, and I'm never going to experience all of it. And I'm glad they've moved on to something new. And I'm also particularly glad that they've taken this theme that they picked, whether you like it or not, and they've kind of gone in and they've taken an interesting slant on it. Yes, it has that Diablo vibe, but this way that you're kind of bonded to a demon and you're harnessing evil to do good, I think is very clever, and I think thematically and mechanically they come together really, really well, which makes this a pretty exciting game, I think. So there you have it, folks. That is Dungeons of Doom. So overall, I have a pretty high level of anticipation about this game. I think this game has potential to be just fantastic. If you have watched my channel, you know that Tanaris Adventures was a nominee for my Game of the Year last year. And so if this is just as good as that, then you're going to have a game that is just a lot of fun and is doing some very cool stuff that I have never seen before in a dungeon crawl. So, there you have it, folks. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.